LinkedIn DMs are an absolute goldmine for generating leads and booking calls for your business. But hardly anyone else has realized this and is actually using them to their full potential. So after sending over 5 million LinkedIn DMs and booking thousands of calls and generating millions in revenue, I know a lot about using DMs to sell products and services on LinkedIn. So in this video, I'll be showing you the exact method that I use with LinkedIn DMs to book calls and get customers, how you can implement this for yourself, and how you can actually scale it so you get so many qualified leads you don't know what to do with them all. Now, why aren't many people already using LinkedIn DMs to book in meetings? Well, the biggest reason is because it can feel like a very manual task. You first have to go on the platform, you've got to search for leads, you've got to find out a reason to reach out to them, you then got to write a personalized message, and you've got to do this all without becoming banned or flagged for suspicious behavior. Now, if you're actually running a business and working with a team, you probably don't have time to be running around on LinkedIn, messaging 100 to 200 prospects manually with a message trying to ask them to buy your services. Which now leads me into reason 2. If you know that you can automate some of these manual tasks, you have to balance 2 very important things: messaging at scale and also messaging personalized and relevant to the respondee. Now, it's really hard to message at scale and personalized because naturally you're going to be unable to say the same things you would have said over a manual message. You also have to be very careful now of automation risks. If you automate too much, too often, and you don't use the correct tools, you can be flagged for suspicious behavior by LinkedIn and have your account banned. Now, if you're using a tool that doesn't understand the weekly limits, it can make your account be at risk. So with this in mind, I'm going to show you a foolproof way to manually message prospects on LinkedIn without having to use an automation tool just to get you going. This is LinkedIn Sales Navigator. It is a tool that lets me find relevant and qualified leads at scale, and it's the backend database to LinkedIn. So the first thing I do is I do a lead search. So I'm looking for people. I search for companies that are 200 to 500 employees that are in the US, that have a CEO job title, and that are posted on LinkedIn. This is a really important one because it lets me find out people that are active on LinkedIn. Now, for example, let's say I want them to be in North America, and then maybe I want them to be a connection of myself. So I'm operating from my co-founder's profile, which is Paolo, and I want them to be a connection of my profile. And for example, we have 14 results immediately. So what I can now do is I've got a small list of people that are quite specific, and I can obviously increase this list size by just increasing the employee ranges or adding some more geographies. But let's say I like the look of Jonathan. He's an interesting person to outreach to. I'm now going to go into his profile. So I can click over here and click view profile. When I do that, I land on LinkedIn Sales Navigator page, which doesn't really help me because it's kind of awkward to read. So then I go and click again into view LinkedIn profile, and this sends me to the actual LinkedIn page that the consumers see. And now what I'm trying to do is I'm looking for reasons to speak to him. So when you do manual outreach, the typical formula I like to use is compliment on them something about their business. I want to show that it's a personalized message. I want to make an observation to make it clear and relevant why I'm reaching out to them. And then I want to ask a very easy to answer question to get the conversation going. The first thing I do is I go on the website and I check out what they do. So it looks like he does homeschooling resources for parents. So he was recently hired into their role at Parenthood Ventures, which sounds like a group around it. He's got a history of marketing, so he understands sales and marketing, which is awesome. I love speaking to people that already understand what's going on. And he's reposting some posts. They're doing some short form video. And so clearly they understand the need for content and he cares about children's needs. So I've got like an idea of a message. I'll send him a connection request. And then when he accepts the connection request, I'll send him a message. But because obviously we're in this video, I'm just going to show you what that message would have been straight away. Hey, Jonathan, I was at that. Really liked your POV on homeschooling to foster growth. I see how people can think about ROI, but definitely much more than that. I would then send that message and I'll write another message saying, by the way, noticed you're creating content on SmartPass company page. Is it getting the parents customers? So the very first thing that I'm doing is sort of compliment, and I'm showing it's personalized. Then this was the observation, and then this is the question. Throughout this, I'm not using much punctuation. I'm purposely using abbreviations. So I try to be very conversational. When I'm this conversational, it comes across as if I'm talking to someone on WhatsApp. It's not coming across as a sales message. And this is a much stronger type of message to send. So my big 3 rules when I come to sending out manual messages and DMs is that 1, I want to be very conversational. I want it to come across as if I'm being very human. 2, I want to be very targeted. I want to speak to people that are relevant for my product and that are already connected with people that I know. And then finally 3 is I want to follow up. So after I send this message, I might not get a response, or I might get a response. I want to add this to a spreadsheet somewhere. Now this is kind of a laborious process when it's done manually because I need to actually copy and paste this profile to a spreadsheet. I need to save it, give it a status. It's a bit painful to do, but a lot of money is in the follow-ups. Like when you're able to follow up with people, they can go from ignoring this message to you going like, oh, by the way, love that last post on XYZ. Like that's going to also help move that conversation forward. So you need to be following up, and without a CRM, it's kind of difficult. So you need to manage it some way, whether it's in Notion or a spreadsheet. So that's how you can go and manually send linked DMs, and some pretty high level advice that should help you do that. And there's no doubt that you can go out with that technique and close a few sales doing what I just showed you. But it will take a lot of time to do it yourself or money with an SDR. Either way, manually researching and sending DMs isn't going to allow you to send 5 million DMs unless your team is literally immortal. So I'm going to show you how to book sale calls at scale using a special technique. So unlike some of the automation software you've probably seen or heard before, there's actually a way to automate your DM sending to make your prospects think that you manually wrote the message you just sent them, to actually bypass the daily sending limits on LinkedIn and make it so that you're sending to people who actually want to see your message. Now let me explain. So using this program over here, we can do everything that I was doing manually automatically. So I'm going to show you every single step. So how to build those lead lists, how to write some campaigns, and how to write messages, and then even manage the follow-ups and the CRM thereafter. First thing you can do on HeyReach is go and build lead lists. So what happens is if you click over to leads over here, you can basically import relevant qualified leads into LinkedIn in a click. So the way it works is there are a bunch of ways to get leads in. So you can either do it from the search bar, you can use Sales Nav, LinkedIn Recruiter, LinkedIn group members. So you can look at member groups and then basically scrape every single attendee in there. It's like an amazing way to find people who say that, hey, I'm qualified for this service. You can look at people that clicked that they were attending an event. Again, super useful because then you know people are interested in a certain thing at a very specific point in time. You can look at post reactors. So say someone else has posted a lead magnet and you want to steal those leads. You can just scrape every post commenter and liker. And you can also import from CSV if you have a data set somewhere. I can do a bunch of other scrapes as well. The one I typically would do is a Sales Navigator lead search. So the way it works is you go into Sales Navigator like we were doing before. We did a search, we got some leads. We basically copy and paste the URL and we put it into HeyReach. You can give it a name, saying test, Commons Connections, let's say US CEOs. I can put the search URL. I'll select some accounts that I want to send this from, and I literally just click start importing. Now, when you click start importing, this cool thing happens where it starts to capture the leads. I put accounts of Paolo in, and it's doing a search URL. Now, once the leads are in, sometimes for whatever reason, the search that we did on LinkedIn wasn't perfect. Like it wasn't an amazing search in the sense that there were some leads that shouldn't have been in there. We can go in and just literally remove them one by one here, which makes, again, life very easy to do because you can capture and remove unqualified leads before you get into the messaging stage. You can then also edit columns and just be able to see the industries and the connections they have to give you some more data points onto what they do. Now, once you create your lead list, you can head over to campaigns and create a new campaign. You literally just put in a name, plug in the leads you want to speak to, and we can do a bunch of exclusions. I don't want to exclude people that messaged before or any sending organization. The next thing you do is you click continue and you go into the LinkedIn sender space. And this is where it gets really interesting. You may remember that I mentioned that there is an issue with LinkedIn is that you can only send 100 to 200 connection requests per week per account. There is no way to get around that limit. That's a limit enforced by LinkedIn, but you can get clever, and this tool lets you do that. What it lets you do is have multiple LinkedIn senders on a single campaign. So you can have, for example, the 2 co-founders accounts and the VP of sales and head of sales, or like a bunch of VAs on the account, and then they can rotate so they all use their own limit of 200 messages per week. This is the same thing you do in cold email, except instead of having inboxes, you have accounts. So you can really easily set this up. I'll show you over here. So you can literally plug in the leads and then you can just choose the LinkedIn senders you want to send from and then put them into multiple campaigns. And now you can build out your campaign or a sequence. Now, what I typically like to do is I like to have warm-up actions. They're actions that kind of signal to the account I'm about to prospect that I'm going to go speak to them and that I'm interested in talking to them. And what I do by this is I'm able to like basically increase the frequency of my touch points with them so they're more likely to respond to me. So what I can start with is liking a post. I could even view their profile, and then a day later I send the connection request. I typically love to do blank connection requests. I don't like to say anything in the connection request. Once they've accepted, I then send a message. This is where I begin the outreach flow. Now, for example, say they don't respond to me, I can always add a second message after a day or after 2 or 3 days, just by changing this over here. Maybe I want to wait 3 days to have a follow-up message in case the timing was wrong or that they were just busy at that point in time. Now, this is how you get a list of leads automatically. This is how you set up multi-inbox rotation. And this is how you create a campaign that is designed to help prospects know who you are before you you reach out to them. The next step is writing the messages. So if you want to get people interested in your outreach message, you need to be speaking to their pain points and to their desires that they want. And this can be hard for some people, but I'm going to show you how to make it really, really easy. I'm going to give you a messaging template and framework that helps you speak to any prospect and make them feel like it was a one-on-one interaction that was deservedly meant for them. So let me show you how I like to structure my outreach. The general framework I use for automated messages is a two-parter. The first part is context and observation. What I'm doing is I'm giving a message or a preamble that is designed to give a reason for why I want to reach out to them specifically. It makes it feel like it's a one-on-one interaction. The second part of the message is where I give an offer that is all about them. Essentially, what's in it for them. Now, I know that can seem quite meta, so I'm going to show you 3 very specific examples that do just that we've used across multiple campaigns for HeyReach. So this is the first message. It's got a personalization saying first name. So I saw you registered for the LinkedIn outreach versus cold email event with Enzo, Alex, Noah, etc. So first, you got some personalization in here. I like the use of etc. because it makes it feel like conversational. I had a discussion with one of the outbound agencies that attended it, and I'm curious to hear your approach. This whole section is setting up observation and context. It's giving a reason to reach out, which is very powerful. And then it leads with a form of offer that hits a pain point or a desire. Now in this one, it's an indirect offer because it says when you can't find an email address for a prospect, do you just quantify them, or do you have any alternative strategies for reaching out? Now, the implication here is he wouldn't be asking unless he had a solution for it. So it's an indirect offer. But what we're teasing here is the pain point, when you can't find an email address for a prospect. So we opened up with context and observation, and we're ending here with teasing a pain point or squeezing a pain point and giving an indirect offer. So that's the first two-parter. Another example, it's, hey, first name, I tried to email you, but my email enricher couldn't find your address. I mean, there's pretty clear context of why you've done it. It's not the most third-party observational. It's very first-party, like, hey, my email enricher didn't go. It's very honest, but it's a great message. So the first one gives you context, and the second part goes, I noticed you're offering lead gen services too. What do you do when the email is missing and you don't want to burn the sales list? And it goes into the main pain point of, hey, the email's missing, what do you do? So again, teasing the pain point, squeezing the pain point, and an indirect offer. Another example, hello, first name. I saw you like Jordan's post about outbound setup. His recommendations are great. Feel free to ask me if you're diving into this and have any difficulties. So this part over here, let's say this first part, which I prefer, is really going into, hey, there's an observation. I know you are interested in outbound, something's going on. Then the offer, also, have you considered a Mirror Profiles account for your setup? Now, this is making an assumption here that they understand what Mirror Profiles is, but it's beginning to tease a desire. Like, what is Mirror Profiles? Is there something here that I don't know about? This is a quite interesting thing. Now, what we can do here is plug this idea back into that campaign. So it goes, hey, first name, so connected with my co-founder, Aman, and saw your posts on LinkedIn. Curious, are you driving any inbound leads from it? Super simple. There's context, there's observation, and there's a question, indirect offer. So we can go out and send that across. HeyReach has an awesome feature where you can remove the personalization variable in case you don't have it for whatever reason. And you can just write, hey, you're connected with my co-founder, saw your post on LinkedIn. And then you can add a follow-up message too. In this one, I'm going to go against my first one and go, or is it mainly for brand and hiring, which is another reason people hire us. After that's done, you click continue, and it will go to review and launch, where you can launch the campaign in a click. Now, when you're doing LinkedIn DMs, it's really important to remember the follow-up. I mentioned this a little bit earlier. Now, if you were doing this manually, you would have to use a spreadsheet or a CRM to track all the leads. Now, this tool has a really cool feature called Unibox, which essentially gives you the inboxes of every single account on the website. So I don't have to log into accounts and log out, get passwords, do 2FAs. Everything is just available for me in one inbox, and I can switch between accounts and reply back from a personalized account onto a prospect. Now, you navigate to Unibox on the left-hand side menu, and you can see all the DM messages that are happening. Now, my favorite features are 3 things. One is the filters. So I can choose between senders, the campaigns it's sent from, and the message types. What that lets me do is it lets me easily manage my inbox, or even outsource this to an appointment setter or inbox manager. The next feature I love is the tags. I'm able to create tags that might say message sent, message replied, booking in conversation, booking in call, follow up next week. And by using these tags, I'm able to make sure I never miss a lead, or I never forget to reply back to them or follow up to them. And this is a much, much better way using it inside this HeyReach inbox than using it on an external spreadsheet or CRM, where I have to basically duplicate the data. And my final favorite feature is canned messages, or they're called templates. So typically you always get a similar objection when you do outbound. So for example, if someone says, I've got time for this, I'm delaying it to Q3 or whatever it is, we basically message back saying, that's all cool. Can I send you over a 2-minute Loom video? And that lets me keep the conversation going, even though given an objection. Now, I don't want to make my appointment setter or inbox manager have to write this out every single time. So they can click the plus, add a canned message, and just basically run the template that I have available. And it makes it really, really easy to manage an inbox of 5, 10, 15 accounts. Now, all that is what I learned from sending more than 5 million cold LinkedIn DMs, and it's going to absolutely send your reply rates through the roof and fill your calendar. So if you want to try out the software I was showing you in this video, there's a link in the description below to completely try it out for free, no strings attached. And if you want to learn more about outbound sales and see Alex Hormozi's advice on lead generation, just click here. Or click here if you want to see my entire free course where I go into depth on every way you can generate thousands and thousands of leads just off of LinkedIn.